short time ago, I ordered the United States Armed Forces to launch precision strikes on targets associated with the chemical weapons capabilities of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. A combined operation with the armed forces of France and the United Kingdom is now underway.
As well.
Mike Lyons, please stick with us. We're going to go now to CBS News foreign correspondent Seth Doane. He is on the scene in Damascus where he has heard explosions. Seth, what have you seen? What have you heard?
Well, good early morning to you here from Damascus. President Trump was speaking around 4 o'clock local time early this morning. And as he was speaking, we were hearing rumbling in the distance, the sound of what sounded like airstrikes. When we were here a couple of months ago and we were hearing the strikes, the Russian military and forces loyal to Bashar al-Assad striking Duma, it was that same type of rumbling sound, almost sounds like thunder in the distance. And we're here looking southeast out over Damascus. We didn't see any flashes from this point, but we did at a couple of points see anti-aircraft fire streaking through the sky. It didn't appear to have a specific target. It was hard to tell where it was going, but it almost appeared like a slow-moving flare going through the sky. Throughout the time the president was speaking, we could hear that rumbling, presumably a coalition airstrikes, targeted bombing of some sort. Obviously too early for us to know exactly what those targets were at this point in time.
Seth, earlier today and throughout your reporting there in Damascus, and I will add that you are the only network correspondent right now in Damascus, you spoke with several Syrian civilians who seem to not believe, number one, that their leader has used chemical weapons, and certainly did not seem worried about an imminent attack. Is that right?
Absolutely. We've been here on the ground for a couple of days out talking with people, and there was a kind of nonchalance and a sense, well, probably two things. One, that they have now this war has entered its 8th year. It is grinding on, and there is a weariness of war. I mean, when we were here a couple of months ago, I described that you could hear the airstrikes, the Russian airstrikes pounding Duma. So airstrikes are sadly nothing new here in this country. So there may be a weariness. Also, a lot of people were telling us that they believe simply that civilians would not be the target. So we were out earlier in the day on Friday. We were at a little amusement park, and people were on the rides. We were in a park, a walk with people strolling on a beautiful day. The weather is quite nice here. The sun was shining. It's really one of the nicest times of the year here in Damascus weather-wise, and people were out enjoying a Friday, which is a holy day, a quieter day of the week, and there was this very relaxed tone and a real questioning of would President Trump, would coalition forces follow through with these threats, and it appears that early this morning they have.
All right. Well, CBS News foreign correspondent Seth Doane, again, the only network correspondent in Damascus, thank you so much for your time. Well, Sean, those images you see taking off from the British air base in Cyprus, those are British Tornado fighter jets. They are taking off as we speak. That's a live feed that we are getting from that base. But as we just reported, the B-1 bombers, the U.S. Air Force B-1 bombers, those are supersonic bombers that fly from a base in Qatar. They were involved in the airstrikes tonight over Syria. They likely would have been escorted by F-22 fighter jets because I misspoke earlier. The B-1 is not stealth, and so they would have had to have been escorted. The F-22 would have been the most likely escort in case they were challenged by any Syrian or Russian aircraft. But those B-1 bombers are interesting because they can fire standoff missiles from up to 600 miles away. They're known as JASSM missiles. They are anywhere from 200 to 600 miles out. Those standoff missiles can strike a target. So those B-1s are extremely lethal, and they would be joining those Tomahawk missiles being fired fired from the Navy's USS Donald Cook that's in the eastern Mediterranean. Those Tomahawks, of course, can fly up to 1,500 miles. They fly at a rate, the Tomahawk flies at a rate of 550 miles per hour. They're low, they're radar evading, and it's like if you were to look up, it would be like seeing a flying telephone going past. But those Tomahawks are now joined, we're told, by B-1 bombers from the U.S. Air Force. Sean.
All right, Jennifer Griffin, stand by.
I want to show you some video now coming in. Nightscope video. We're told this is from the Syrian Central Military Media. They have released what they show are missiles incoming over the city of Damascus during the airstrikes by the U.S., France, and Britain, that allied coalition tonight. And they say returning fire, attempting to take down those missiles. The sky, we're told, turned orange. Surface-to-air missiles were sent up in response to the joint airstrikes. There's been some posturing about exactly how well they did going after the Tomahawks that were coming in. The Pentagon is promising to release a little bit more data about that in the morning after there are full assessments. And also, we are getting video in a Hezbollah TV station. They are showing video of cheering crowds in the streets in Damascus shortly after dawn. Again, as Mike Tobin connected the dots there, you have to remember the groups that are allied together and why they would be celebrating and showing pro-Assad and anti-U.S. chanting this morning there as the sun has come up in Damascus following a night of airstrikes by the U.S., the U.K., and France acting together.
Absolutely. And in particular, we've been watching what the reaction from the Russian government is. They claim that these strikes are an attack against them. Now, Syria right now is the battleground for a number of different conflicts and a few proxy wars that are ongoing there. Russia and Iran are allied with the Assad regime there, essentially keeping it in power. The Russian ambassador to the United States has just provided a statement. Anatoly Antonov, he says, quote, "Again, we are being threatened. We warn that such actions will not be left without consequences. Insulting the president of Russia is unacceptable and inadmissible. The U.S., the possessor of the biggest arsenal of chemical weapons, has no moral right to blame other countries." Now, over the past several days, Russia has warned against an attack on its ally, the Assad regime. The U.K., the U.S., France, and others have fought with Russia at the United Nations Security Council over this. Russia has denied the chemical weapons attack and then blamed the British government for staging it. Russia agreed in 2013 to destroy Syria's chemical weapons. The U.S. says the Russians enabled the Syrian government to carry out these attacks. It also says the Syria attacks and Russia attack on a former spy in the UK normalizes chemical weapons use, which is the reason why they've pushed back in this manner. Now, the Pentagon says it designed these attacks to avoid any Russian forces that they've identified or might be in that area. But just yesterday in his Senate confirmation hearing, the Secretary of State designee, Mike Pompeo, acknowledged publicly that the U.S. military has already killed hundreds of Russians in one particular fight and attack there. There were previous reports that those Russians were mercenaries fighting with forces there. Now, Russia, Iran, and Turkey met last week to discuss the future of Syria. The Iranian government has yet to react to this, but we are getting some reaction from the Syrian government. Just a tweet at the Syrian presidency page. They tweeted it out in Arabic. This is a translation from the Associated Press saying, quote, "Good souls will not be humiliated." Now, while Pompeo waits for his confirmation vote in the U.S. Senate, the acting Secretary of State is Deputy Secretary John Sullivan. He's down in Peru right now at an international summit there, though officials say he has been involved in conversations remotely that are ongoing here in D.C. Shannon?
All right, Rich Hudson live for us tonight at the State Department. Thank you very much, Rich.